What makes a player a league winner in fantasy? Well, these are the running backs that we think are going to be those guys, and we're going to tell you why. Before we break down those players, we've got some exciting news to share with you.
Flockfantasy.com/endgame is the ultimate cheat code for your fantasy football season. Put your fantasy football skills to the test by playing redraft against myself and Pierre. Battle us to try to take home cash prizes. And you can ace your draft like a pro with our exclusive video draft course to help you dominate your fantasy drafts. Gain the edge with our top-notch draft rankings plus our weekly in-season rankings. And get access to our secret knowledge with our bonus articles and videos that you cannot find anywhere else. And as a special bonus, you can show off your fantasy skills in style by wearing one of our classy Endgame t-shirts for free just by being a member. Sign up now at flockfantasy.com/endgame and get an amazing 30% off your subscription.
All right, now let's get to those running backs. The first one, it's really no surprise if you've been watching the Endgame all offseason long. Chris, your first league winner is
Tony Pollard. And I'll say before I get into why I like Tony Pollard, who I've talked about a lot this offseason, like you said, I want to talk about what I look for when I'm drafting a running back in one of the first 2 or 3 rounds. I want a guy who I feel like can finish as the #1 scoring running back. I know a lot of people want to draft somebody who's like, oh, he's safe, he has a high floor. No, you want that guy who can actually carry your team to a championship. Like last year, would you have rather have had Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey, or Derrick Henry in the first or second round? I mean, Derrick Henry was good last year, but Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler were absolutely great and carried teams to championships. And that's what I'm talking about here. I want a running back I feel that can do that. Now, I feel like Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler can do that this year, and same with Bijan Robinson. But if you're not getting one of those guys and you're in the second round, the guy I feel like can do that is Tony Pollard. We saw it last year, even stuck behind Dusty Zeke for the first half of the season, not really taking over the backfield until the second half. He still finished as the RB8, and we've seen it in the past. When Zeke has missed games, this guy has been phenomenal. He's the exact type of running back that profiles as the potential #1 running back. He's an efficient runner. He's an explosive runner. He'll catch enough passes. He probably won't get to that crazy, CMC or Austin Eckler level of receptions, but he can get to at least 50, and that is all he needs. He's got tremendous touchdown upside, and the best part is he has no competition here. I'm not worried about Malik Davis. I'm not worried about Deuce Vaughn. I'm not worried about Ronald Jones when he comes back from suspension. I'm not worried about any of those guys. Pollard checks every single box. In my opinion, the only thing that matters here is, can he hold up for a full 17 games? If he can, he has a great shot to be one of, if not the top scoring running back in fantasy this year. I will take a shot on that in the second round every time.
Now, when I look for a league winning running back, here's what I look for. I'm pretty convinced right now that I think Bijan Robinson is going to be the RB1 in fantasy. He's got a first round price tag. The other guys are obvious, the CMCs and Ecklers, guys who have done it. But I'm looking for the guy who you don't have to draft in the first or second round. The guy you can get in the middle rounds, maybe even the end of your draft, and finishes top 10, maybe even top 5 at running back. That's a league winner because you still loaded up at the other positions, got that stud wide receiver, and then you got your stud running back in the mid to late rounds. So who are those guys with that potential? So I'm going to start with somebody who I've really come almost full circle on, because Miles Sanders is a talented back, and I loved him coming out of college, and he had a great rookie season, and then he's just kind of been okay until last year where he came alive again. But now going to a team with a new head coach, a rookie quarterback, basically the whole offense is new in Carolina. But I'll tell you, and sure there might be a little bit of bias here, because when you see a player in person, you see a team practice and you watch, and then when somebody stands out to you or something sticks, then it's a lot more than just looking at the stat lines or, just hearing hype on social media. Well, here's what I noticed watching the Panthers in person. It was Miles Sanders pretty much all day, every day. Chuba Hubbard would come in once in a while with the second team, and even then, it was just to, catch a dump-off pass, and, on running plays, he didn't look explosive. He even dropped a couple of those easy passes. I think it's pretty obvious that what Frank Reich is saying as far as Miles Sanders being a 3-down back, and we've heard Sanders say this himself, I'm going to be a 3-down back. I believe it now because I've seen it. It looks like this offense will run through Sanders, not just on running plays, but also on passing downs. I don't think he comes off the field that much. And we all think that Sanders is just an explosive runner, makes some big plays, but isn't a great pass catcher. Well, if you look back to his rookie season, he caught 50 passes. He just wasn't used that way because the last couple of years, it just so happens that Philadelphia had one of the best running quarterbacks in the league, not an offense that dumps the ball off a lot. Well, in Carolina, they have a mobile, but I wouldn't say necessarily, wouldn't call Bryce Young a running quarterback, but also he's a rookie, and you know what? He's going to dump the ball off a lot because his best receivers, although they're fine, Terrace Marshall maybe will step up, Adam Thielen maybe isn't toast, DJ Chark maybe will stay healthy, but you know what? Besides all that, he's going to dump the ball off a lot because he doesn't have that chemistry with these receivers, and he's a rookie. He's going to check down. This offense isn't going to be looking vertical. They're going to be trying to kind of slowly manage the ball down the field and not make mistakes. So I feel like Sanders gets his career high in receptions. He could get his career high in rushing. And look, he ran for over 1,100 yards last year. Why not 1,200 this year? And you can get him in round 5, 6. I mean, something around there. He's got a mid to low RB2 price tag. And I really think he could have his best season yet. All right, your next guy is someone who, I mean, we've been high on, but now there's some question marks about him. Tell me why you're still sold on him as a league winner.
Yeah, speaking of a running back you could get in, later in the draft that has top 10 upside, that is J.K. Dobbins. And I was talking about him a bunch early in the offseason, and then his ADP started to climb, and I just couldn't draft him anymore. It was like in every single draft, he was gone way before I felt comfortable taking him. Like 4th round J.K. Dobbins all of a sudden. Well, then he started on PUP, and he's still on PUP, and now his ADP has dropped back down. Oftentimes you can get this guy in the 5th, 6th round again, sometimes even the 7th round in drafts because people think he's not going to play this year, but I keep talking about it. This is not an injury-related PUP. This is the Ravens protecting themselves. In fact, the Ravens have said it's an undisclosed injury. Whatever that means, it means there is no injury. It means they're putting him on the PUP because if he doesn't show up to camp and he doesn't play by week 6, he basically goes into next season on the last year of his deal again. This is the Ravens protecting themselves. He's going to be out there. He has to be out there this year. He pretty much has to be. And John Harbaugh is saying he's talked to J.K. Dobbins every day. He's looking forward to having him back out there. Todd Monken talking to him and every day. My guess is they're probably working on some kind of contract, him and the Ravens, and we're going to hear something pretty soon here where he signed a deal and he's going to be out there. And this is a runner who's explosive. We saw it even down the stretch last year when he wasn't even close to 100%. He was having monster games. And this offense is just going to be a dynamic offense this year, a totally different offense. And it's going to help the running game because teams aren't just going to be able to load up on the running game and think like, well, we just got to stop Lamar and Dobbins and make them pass. That's not going to be the case this year. I love J.K. Dobbins still. He's fully healthy, 2 years removed from that ACL. I still think he's going to smash this year. And he went from being a great value early in the offseason to kind of getting a little too pricey for me in the middle part of the offseason here. But now he's back to being a great value. So if he falls in your draft because people are scared that he's on the PUP, grab him. He'll be out there week 1, and he'll help you win a championship.
Agreed. I mean, I'm all over Baltimore offense this year and Dobbins for sure. I know the one knock maybe is that he isn't a prolific pass catcher. It's okay when you average 5 yards a carry and you get double-digit touchdowns potentially. I think that's fine. So that leads me to my next guy. I mean, he's my guy. I really don't need to introduce that to you, but Cam Akers, well, he's not going to necessarily catch a ton of passes, but it's okay because he's going to get all the carries. Who else is going to carry the ball here? I like Zach Evans as a prospect, but I feel like Sean McVay isn't just going to all of a sudden make him the backup, and he really hasn't stood out necessarily yet in camp, which concerns me, but doesn't concern me as far as when I draft Cam Akers. Kyron Williams, I mean, please, he showed that he's just a plotter. He's not a threat in any way. His job basically will be to come in and, block on third downs and things like that. So I really feel like Cam Akers is going to get one of the highest market shares of carries for his offense. The Cup injury potentially is, if it's not a big deal, then whatever. But if it lingers or something happens here, we've talked about the fact that their depth chart at wide receiver is kind of scary. It's kind of like XFL quality here. I mean, there's Kupp and a bunch of guys, so they're going to have no choice but to run the ball more than they want. And Akers is going to be the guy every time. We saw his explosiveness at the end of last year. He was back. It took a little while, obviously that Achilles injury, but man, if somebody has recovered well, it is him. So the volume is going to be there, and the explosiveness is back. He's also one of those guys who's got that breakaway ability, so not too worried about him making those big plays. You know, the Rams offense, I don't think it's going to be one of the best in the league, but Akers is the one who is going to lead the way, and I want a bell cow in the middle rounds every chance I can get. What's another running back you have as a potential league winner?
Yeah, another later round guy who I think is being slept on because he was kind of disappointing last year is Rashard White. I love his situation this year. I love what he's going to do in the passing game specifically. If you're in a PPR league, Rashard White can be one of those guys you draft, you know, close to the double-digit rounds, maybe around 7, 8, 9, depending on your league. And he can be an every week RB2 for you, maybe even a high-end RB2, because he's going to catch so many passes in this offense. I keep talking about it. Baker Mayfield led all quarterbacks in check down percentage last year. He can't throw it deep. Kyle Trask can't throw it deep, so even if he somehow wins the job, I'm not worried about that. Rashard White was one of the best pass-catching backs coming out of college last year. It's how the Bucs used him primarily last year. I'm not worried about this at all. He had 50 catches last year with Leonard Fournette. I think he gets to 80 catches this year, and if he does that, he's going to be great in your PPR leagues. Also, he's going to more than likely be the lead back here, and you could talk about his efficiency, and you could talk about the O-line, and I get all that. But if he gets 200 carries, he only really needs to average about 4 yards per carry. That's 800 yards. If he catches 80 passes, let's say for another, 500 yards, you're talking about 1,300 yards and 80 catches. That's over 200 PPR points without doing anything else. That's if he never even falls into the end zone one time, and you're getting this guy so late in drafts. So for me, Rashard White, he's actually a workhorse running back with tremendous pass catching upside that you can get late, and that is a recipe for a league winner.
I'm going to follow that recipe with a very similar back, and I almost hate to put this out there because it's getting so much helium these days, but here we go, James Cook. Now, I've also said in the past, I'm not going to overpay for a Buffalo running back because, a lot of people just want a piece of that offense, and it's kind of like running back situation in Kansas City, always overvalued, and they just think whoever's on there is going to thrive, and that's not the case. Well, I've come around to James Cook because I just really see him as the guy. I know it's easy to fall into all the reports from these reporters and what the coaches say, but I really feel like James Cook should and could be the guy there because he isn't just a pass catching back. He isn't just a receiver. He's a really good runner, and we saw that when he was in Georgia, and we were saying all last year, why isn't he getting more run? Devin Singletary is okay, but nothing special. James Cook really is better, and I think this year he proves it. Now, I do like Damian Harris, and that I've talked about him for the last couple of years, but we know what he is. He's a guy who will just come in for short yardage, maybe some goal line work. He'll mix in once in a while. I think James Cook, though, is the lead back, and he gets just as many carries as Harris, plus all the catches. That's right. Damian Harris will not get that many catches, if any. James Cook is the guy you want because in a PPR format, that's what wins leagues. It's a running back who can do it all. So while Cook might not get the same volume as some of these other backs, his place in that offense does make him more valuable. It's not like he's not going to score any touchdowns. It's not like Damian Harris gets every single carry near the red zone. Cook will get you that floor in terms of receptions. He's got the ceiling in terms of making big runs and that scoring ability. I mean, this is what you want. If you're playing the 0 RB game, he should be the first choice you make in the middle rounds. And if you're waiting on RB2, which I highly recommend, he's also a guy you should be happy to roll out there every single week. We're always looking for those league-winning picks. Well, who is it at wide receiver that could be those players? We're going to tell you right here.